Hello there, welcome back to some more of whatever this is. It's the classic end of year review for me. The last one was released in like January 14th for some reason. This one's going to be released December 31st as it should be. And this is basically where I just talk about what I've been doing for the past year, how things have been going. I'm mainly talking about the games we played and all that stuff. Now, I've made a list, and this list is actually quite short because, as always, I end up playing games that are a little bit longer. And so this slightly longer list of games in terms of length but number is lower. So let's start with Mario & Luigi Brothership, which I actually started in December of 2024, but I didn't speak about in the video last year. And finished in January 22nd, 2025, which is 50 episodes, so nearly 2 months, so we're starting out with quite a long one. I like this game a lot. I think in terms of my Mario & Luigi hierarchy, like where I'd put it, I think it would probably go above Dream Team and above Partners in Time, but definitely below Bowser's Inside Story and Superstar Saga for me. I think that it has a lot going for it. I think if it was in 60 FPS, I'd like it a lot more. I'll say that a lot about Switch games. So come on, release that patch, if you don't mind. Switch 2, please. But yeah, I think it's an interesting game. I think it's not too hard, but also not stupidly easy. I think that some of the bonus challenges are actually quite difficult, which is good. It's also not very grindy. You don't have to grind out too much if you don't want to. The story's like there, it exists, it's fine. I think it's a bit too tutorialized still. Mario & Luigi has this problem where they treat everyone like they're 4, and they don't have to play an RPG, which is fine because Nintendo does cater to a lower aged audience, but still, it'd be nice just to be able to turn it off and just go through the game without being tutorialized about every single thing. But yeah, overall I think it's a very good RPG, and I'm glad that I played it. And I think that, as always, people with Nintendo just think that they're like the worst company ever made if their games aren't all 10 out of 10s. 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 is fine compared to a lot of the bullshit slop that we get given by everyone else all the time. So that is Mario & Luigi Brothership. I think next we'll talk about SteamWorld Build, which was the day after, so starting January 23rd and ending February the 4th, 2025. It's only 13 episodes long. So a bit of a shorter one within 2 weeks, and that is a city building game with a narrative focus, which is a bit interesting because it means that replayability is a bit limited because the narrative is the same every time, so it won't be that interesting to play from a narrative perspective the second time. But I think it's a game that knows when to end. It keeps its mechanics interesting, it keeps going in a sort of fresh way and introduces new stuff, and then stops. It doesn't make you grind out for hours and hours and hours to get something like perfect if you don't want to. I think that games, especially these days, have a problem with extending their length to try and justify their increased price. And it's just feels sort of fake. It feels like, oh, obviously you're just extending this 1 hour segment into 3 hours so that you feel like you've gotten something worth having out of it, which is just a bit strange. So I don't really agree with that, but I think SteamWorld Build was a good game. I think it was interesting and had nice mechanics and stuff, but didn't necessarily push the boat out too far. Didn't do anything too crazy, but was there and it passable and it worked fine and nothing was overly annoying about it. And all the mechanics seemed to work together well and just functioned pretty well as a game. And so that's what SteamWorld Build is about. I think, yeah, if I had to give it a rating, not that I'm really bothered about ratings because I don't really read reviews, but again, probably like a 7 or 8. It's like fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm using like the IGN scale where 7 is actually like a 5. I don't know why. But yeah, I think it's fine. It's alright. It's fine. Then we moved on to XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. I've played it before, but I never played it on the channel before. That was from February the 5th, 2025 until March the 29th, 2025, which is 52 episodes. So again, another longer one. Yeah, XCOM is a series that I actually like quite a lot, but I only really started playing it from Enemy Unknown, which is the original remake of XCOM. So they had the old ones, and then they released in like 2012 or so. I don't actually know when XCOM and Enemy Unknown came out, but I started playing it then because my friends at secondary school at the time would have liked it. So it might have been even early 2000s, 2006, 2007, something like that. Because I definitely remember playing it in secondary school, and I started secondary school in 2005. So something like that. At some point, maybe I was a young adult. I don't actually know, but yeah, I think those games, I like them a lot. They're sort of simplified versions of old, very technical turn-based RPGs. I guess they're just like turn-based strategy games, really. But you have stats, you can level up. That's an RPG to me. So I think I enjoyed it. War of the Chosen added from XCOM 2, which I hadn't played. I played XCOM 2, but I hadn't played War of the Chosen. Added a lot of new stuff, new mechanics, new classes, things like that. And I always enjoy those games. I'm not particularly good at them because my brain doesn't work too good. But I enjoy them a lot, and I think I had a good time with it. One of the main problems, I think, from a content creator's perspective, not that I really consider myself one, but if you had like a big community, you can name the soldiers, you can introduce the community, and have a bit more stock in the survival of your soldiers because you are using chat members or members of the community as the soldiers you're playing as. Whereas for me, I don't really do that. I'm not really interested in that. So from that point of view, it's a little bit less interesting because the soldiers are kind of more generic. You don't care as much about whether they live or die. So you take a bit more risk, you do silly things and let them die when you shouldn't really be doing that. But yeah, overall, I think it's a very, very good game. I want an XCOM 3. Give me the Terror of the Deep remake properly, do an XCOM 3. I don't know that they will, for reasons, but I would enjoy that quite a bit. Okay, and so after that, we're moving on to Final Fantasy 16. This is the big one. Out of all the things I played this year, this is the second longest. Final Fantasy 16 started on March the 29th, 2025 and ended June the 4th, 2025, which is 68 episodes. So way more than 2 months. I think that overall, this game is not really what I want out of Final Fantasy, but I think people's dislike of it is way overblown, if that makes sense. I've said before that I'm not really the best critic of things because I sort of just absorb things as they are and don't necessarily treat them as part of a continuation of a series. And so, this isn't what I want from the series, so it's worse. Zelda is kind of like the exception because Zelda, in my mind, is a very specific thing, which is why it's like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom don't scratch that itch for me at all. And I don't think they're very good Zelda games, but I think they're okay games. Final Fantasy 16 for me didn't feel like that. I don't have an idea in my head of what Final Fantasy should be. I've played all of them, and for those of you who don't know, the first 3 are like purely you take a turn, then they take a turn, then you take a turn, then they take a turn. Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 introduce what's called active time battle, where if on active mode, which is the best way to play those games, you have to keep doing things because the enemy won't wait for you. They will just attack when they can, and so you have to play in a more active way. You still have turns, but the turns are going non-linearly, if that makes sense. So you have to decide what you're doing. 7 and 8 and 9 build upon that and use the same system, but then 10 goes back to being turn-based again. Then 11 is an MMO, which is completely different, it's completely active. 12 is also completely active. Again, you have turns, kind of, but it's more like an MMO. 13 is the same sort of situation, except in a different way. And 14 is an MMO again. And then 15 is purely open world and completely real-time. And so the series has done so many different things that I don't think you can really say this isn't a proper Final Fantasy game. 16 is just doing something different again compared to what happened before. FF7 Remake is just doing something different to what FF7 did. So I think that people get really hung up on what a series should be. And I do it too, like I said. But I think that for Final Fantasy, they've already done so much different stuff that to say that this isn't a proper one seems wrong. Anyway, let's actually talk about what Final Fantasy 16 is about. It's very heavily narratively focused, clearly inspired by things like Game of Thrones and those sorts of Western medieval style things. It's a lot more mature. There's like open sex references, nudity, gore, foul language, all these very adult things. And for me, it doesn't really bother me. I don't really watch a lot of that kind of stuff because I'm not really interested in it. But medieval compared to sci-fi is definitely more interesting to me. So I liked the world, I liked the characters, I liked the gameplay. it's a little bit too simplistic compared to something like Devil May Cry, which is very involved and has a lot of comboing and aerial stuff and things which FF16 doesn't really have. But it has enough to keep you interested. I like the combo system where you break someone and then build up damage by hitting them over and over again. I think that there's more you could do with this system that would improve it more. But I think that overall, I'm very happy with the game. I think it was, beautiful graphically, especially the PC version which I played. Ran fine. It ran like a dream on my computer. I know FF15 had problems, and probably 16 did have problems when it first launched as well. But by the time I played it with both DLCs, it ran great. And of course, I have a 4090, so there's not a lot it can't run, to be fair. But yeah, I think that the game was really good. The music, immaculate, fantastic, brilliant. You're probably listening to some right now. The characters, again, I like Jill, I like Clive, Sid, of course, all these guys. Everyone's memorable, everyone's interesting, they've got their own things going on. Yeah, really, the only weak part of that is the villains. I don't care enough about the villains to be invested in what they're doing. Like, Ultima is not interesting to me. I just don't see it as like a big thing. But besides that, I mean, there's not a lot you can really complain about. At least I don't find much to complain about. And so yeah, for me, this is more like a solid 8 or 9 because I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoy Final Fantasy anyway. I'm a bit of a shill for the series, so there's not a lot they could really do that would make me dislike it. But I don't like all of them. Like, the MMOs don't do anything for me, so I probably won't finish FF14 ever, or 11. But I do my best to play all of them. And so, yeah, I think overall I'm really happy with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's a great game, and I think people should play it. I think it's really cool. Then, after that, moving on to SteamWorld Heist 2, starting from June the 5th, 2025 until August the 2nd, 2025. Another big one, 59 episodes long. It's actually longer than I thought it was. The reason why is because I split every mission into its own video. So where FF16 is 68 episodes long, and some of them, if not most of them, are half an hour long, 45 minutes long, an hour long, SteamWorld Heist 2 is 59 episodes long, but some of them are 10 minutes long, 5 minutes long, 50 minutes long, depending on what they are. And so it's a slightly different kind of vibe. But a little bit behind the curtain for you. Those kinds of videos are a lot easier for me because, as you might know, I work a full-time job as well. And so having days where I can do a short thing that's 10 minutes long and just put it up is a lot easier for me than having to dedicate an hour, 2 hours to a thing and then get an hour worth of footage out of it and then upload it. So those kinds of things, there are reasons why I might pick shorter form games that take less time compared to always doing long ones. If this was my full-time occupation, I'd probably be doing a lot more per day, maybe 2 series running concurrently or whatever. But as it is, sometimes I find it hard to upload a video at all in a day, let alone more than one. So yeah, but anyway, SteamWorld Heist 2, it's a side-scrolling strategy game, so sort of like XCOM in a way, where you have a turn, you have a movement action, you have action points, you can do certain things, but it is side-scrolling. So it's a lot different in that way because you're limited to 2 axes rather than 3. And so it builds on SteamWorld Heist 1 in a lot of interesting ways. I personally like the class system. A lot of people don't like it compared to ones, but I actually think SteamWorld Heist 2's class system is interesting. There are certainly classes that are just better than others, which is a little bit of a shame. So for example, Brawler can be good, and especially the ability to take damage for a turn and just be invincible, Abs of Steel, is really cool. But that's like unique to one Brawler, I believe, if I'm not like making shit up. And otherwise, using melee in a game where everyone has guns is always like a risky strategy, unless the melee is so overwhelmingly powerful that you would always want to use it, which it isn't. The things like Sniper, where you can just, if you kill a guy, you just shoot again, shoot a guy, shoot a guy, shoot a guy, is incredible. Reaper, with the that move for the Reaper on a Sniper is insane. The fact that you can mix and match abilities from classes is really interesting because you can make stupidly strong classes. But again, there are some classes that are just less good. There are just ones that are just not anywhere near on the level, which is a shame. I, of course, played it on the hardest difficulty. Sometimes I don't. I'm not the sort of person who needs to play things on the hardest difficulty because otherwise you didn't actually play the game correctly. But because I played SteamWorld Heist 1 and I thought, okay, well, I know what the game's going to be about. I played it on the highest difficulty, which is actually quite hard. I didn't need any help outside of the final mission, which I just didn't understand how to do without looking up and grinding classes, which I did. And once I did grind the classes, it was like stupid easy, so I probably didn't need to grind as much as I did. But I think that overall the game is really good, and I want a SteamWorld Heist 3. I think they could build on this even more. Introduce new classes, introduce new mixing and matching of things. I would certainly enjoy it quite a lot. And it finished in August. However, in the middle of July, halfway through this, I had a new game coming out that I wanted to play. And so I started doing 2 series at once, making 2 videos a day. And that was Donkey Kong Bonanza. That was from July 17th, 2025 until September 9th, 2025, which is 55 episodes long. So again, you're seeing why I've only done 7 games in the whole year, because each one is like 2 months long, or a month and a half, if at that. And so, Donkey Kong Bonanza, what can I say about that game? It's a Donkey Kong game made by the people who made Mario Odyssey. It's also kind of more free-flowing, more open. It's a collectathon, which is interesting because we haven't seen like a full-on collectathon probably since Mario Odyssey that's worth anything. And I really enjoyed it. I think that the destruction physics are really cool. The fact you can completely destroy a level and it doesn't completely chug the system to shit. It chugs a little bit, but not completely awfully. I think that it's a very interesting game. There are some problems with it, definitely. Once you get the elephant power, that just becomes the way you do everything. At least it did for me. Because why wouldn't you just suck everything up with the elephant power rather than punch it yourself? And so towards the end of the game, I definitely felt a sort of fatigue where I was just doing the same thing in every level over and over again. And the challenges weren't different or interesting enough to make up for the fact that I was just destroying the level, getting a chest, finding a banana, going to the chest, getting a banana, finding a relic, go get... Yeah, it just happened over and over and over again. I didn't play the DLC, although I've heard it's pretty good. The DKL's interesting. It only adds like a roguelike mode, so it's not like a thing that I'd be super interested in returning to. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I think that it's very good. It wasn't quite the Donkey Kong game that I wanted, which would be like another Donkey Kong Country style or another Donkey Kong 64 style with the other Kongs. It's never going to happen. But I would like that kind of experience again. But for what it is, I think DK Bonanza is really cool. Again, people hate on the voice acting and hate on Pauline and whatever. It's fine. I didn't really have any like concerns or problems with it at all. I thought it was really cool. And so again, midway through that, I'd finished SteamWorld Heist 2 after August 2nd, and I started the main thing, which is technically not finished yet, but I did finish the game, so I'm going to talk about it here, which was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's from August the 3rd until still now. Currently, there's 132 episodes of that, and there will be about 3 or 4 more, I would think, to clear up everything that needs clearing up. They will happen when they happen. I've done like 4 hours of grinding so far, but that's nowhere near enough to actually make the video yet. It's finding time to do those, which is going to be really difficult for me. But that is fine. What do I say about Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Xenoblade is a relatively new RPG series. I say, new. It's not from the 90s. It's from the early 2000s on the Wii. Or early 2010s, I guess. But this series is really, really cool. Xenoblade 3, I think I put it behind 1, which is like the pinnacle for me. Above 2, which is like okay, but I didn't like a lot of the things it did. And 3 is definitely in the middle. It's a game that played it a lot more safe compared to Xenoblade 2. Xenoblade 2 took some risks, did some different stuff. I didn't happen to like the things they did differently, but this did at least take some risks. Xenoblade 3 plays it a lot closer to the chest. It plays it a lot safer. I happen to like it because it's a lot more streamlined. It makes a lot more sense. It's less bloated. It feels like there's less random quests that take 7 hours to do for no reason. You don't have to grind out character skills in the same way that you did in Xenoblade 2. You don't have to go around collecting Collectopedia things as hard as you did in Xenoblade 1. So there's a lot of things in Xenoblade 3 which are better. Of course, the music, always immaculate, incredible. The story, it's there, it exists, I enjoy it. Again, I don't really play RPGs for the story, which is a stupid thing to say, but it's true. I don't really care about narratives. My brain doesn't function in that way, that I don't get the itch from a narrative sort of driven thing. most emotions I feel are negative things, so I cry sometimes when things happen that are bad, like people die or something emotional happens, but I don't feel the joy when the good things happen. So that, from that perspective, the narrative sort of gets lost on me, which is why I don't read books and things like that, because of the same reason. But as in terms of a game, the gameplay of it works fine. It's very fun, it's fluid, it feels fast. Again, if there's a little 60 FPS patch for the Switch 2, if you can hit me up with one of those, that'd be sweet. But I've still got to play Xenoblade X, which I will do at some point, probably not 26, but maybe 2027. But yeah, overall I think really, really cool. I would highly recommend it to anyone who likes JRPGs. I think it's a very competent, well-written, interesting, not too convoluted, although a bit, because they always are, JRPG. And yeah, that is where we are. Now, of course, I started Metroid Prime 4, but I'm not going to talk about how I feel about that until next year's video, because I haven't finished it yet. I'm only about 2/3 of the way through, maybe 3/4, but I haven't actually finished it yet, so I don't want to give a full-formed opinion, because I haven't got one yet. Besides that, just in terms of how I'm doing, I gained another like 50 subscribers this year, which is pretty cool. It's like a third, it said, less than it was last year, but that means it's only like 16 people less. It's hardly a big deal. When we're at the scale of what I'm looking at, 50 is a lot, considering I have like 400 and something subscribers. 50 out of 400 is like, what, an eighth? So that is pretty good as a proportion of the whole thing. I don't market myself. I don't network. I don't really want to, because I don't want to dilute the things that I want to make. I feel like I would be doing it, like making stuff with other people, just because I wanted to grow, and that feels fake to me. So I don't really enjoy that. I feel like being true to who I am is more important to me, because I don't see this as like a career. Now that could change one day if something blows up or whatever, but I don't think my personality would allow me to do it. It doesn't make me better or worse than anyone, it just means that my brain doesn't work that way. So, in terms of how things are going, yeah, my work's going well. I'm still plodding along. I'm still doing my stuff. Still helping people try and get better at maths, which I feel is fulfilling. It's something that I actually enjoy doing, which is cool. There are things that I would like to be doing that I don't do. But then it's finding motivation and interests that has always been a problem for me. I'm not going to dwell too much on those things because who cares, honestly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to quite a few games in the coming year. So in terms of things that I'm looking forward to, there's a lot of Nintendo stuff always that I'm interested in. Some big name things. I'm looking forward to whatever the next Zelda thing will be, even if we don't hear anything about it, as long as we hear something. Like what's interesting about it. The next mainline Mario game, which the Switch 2 hasn't got one yet. Of course, I've played other games this year that weren't recorded, so like Mario Kart World and other Switch 2 stuff that I think is interesting and cool. But I really don't play a lot of stuff outside of recording, which is one of the reasons I do this, is because it gives me a reason to play things. Because I'm just busy with work otherwise, and I would just sit here and work all day, every day if I didn't do things. But yeah, as always, thank you very much to everyone who has ever watched one of my videos, or enjoys them, or finds them useful, or helpful, or whatever. That's what I do it for. It gives me a reason to keep doing stuff in the day, which is helpful. It keeps my mind occupied, because otherwise I'd be going around in circles over and over again, and it's just not very helpful or healthy. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and here's to 2026 being just as good, if not better. See you then.